This is Tom Duty, middle-aged American living in New Jersey near the Lincoln Tunnel. If you were to visit my website, you would type Howdy Doody into Google. You'll find the correct spelling of the famous puppet. You then combine Tom Duty in a Google search for my site. This message is for Mr. Pinto and Mr. Kamlesh of Mumbai. So please note, this disputed invoice is a problem. It's a problem for your company, the two of you professionally and maybe personally. It's a problem for me professionally and personally. And it's a problem for Niaz. The advancement credited to Niaz is really two things. One is to credit to Niaz and the other is independent. Two things happened today that are good. We have the right people communicating. I have, since the beginning, declared Niaz as the CEO of this company, and your company has not appropriately acknowledged him as a CEO, but nonetheless in collections, all of a sudden you're kind of accepting that you got to talk to Niaz. So this is good. We have the right people talking. As far as I'm concerned, you've been approaching me about getting this bill paid, and I'm not the right guy. As much as you want to think I am, I deny that I am. Niaz is the right guy. So we have the right people talking. And finally, there's an exchange of content. So we have the right people, and there is content. Prior to this, it has lacked content. So what I'm asking in this video is, please, you're in a professional setting, probably when you listen to this, download it onto your phone and listen when you're in a train station and try to relax and just let's resolve this. I have a fantasy of my professional relationships being long-term, and maybe by understanding what's happening here, my relationship with your company and with Kamlesh specifically will endure. It is unquestionably at risk. So Mr. Pinto and Mr. Kamlesh, I'm struggling because I copied some text from an email into a text file, and it turns out I got the entire thread. But all I'm going to read is today's content, and I wasn't aware that I had so much. So I scrolled to the bottom, and I ended up with months of exchange that lacks content. Now today we have content. And this is frustrating. I'm going to have to do a text search to find it. So I'm searching on Kamlesh. Here we go. Dear Kamlesh. Okay, so this today's text is Niaz to you, and Kamlesh specifically back to Niaz, and of course I'm copied on this, and Mr. Pinto is copied, and there's really 4 people involved. Dear Kamlesh, your company did not complete my filing and even messed up. They filed it as a C Corp without filing the entity election. When you miss to file entity election, the LLC will be taxed as pass-through, and the income should have been taxed in Tom's personal IRS return. I'm Tom. That's bad. Eventually, it was filed as a C Corp, which would not be acceptable by IRS, and they in turn rejected it. Please see correspondence received from IRS in the same thread email. I am in the process of fixing all the mess which your company has processed, which is causing more time and more money. I will not be able to pay any charges for this, as it has caused me a lot of fixing. More of my business is time and money. Thanks, Niaz. So again, I'm going to go back to my unscripted words before I move to Kamlesh's reply. This is an Indian man who's a young entrepreneur. He's ambitious. He's educated. He's a lot of things. But 6 months ago, he didn't know any of this shit. This is an Indian man talking IRS speak with things like C Corp and some of the other things. So we got some people pushing the boundaries of what they know, and this text represents Niaz doing exactly that. These words are not foreign to the U of you. Even though you're Indians, you are professionals who do IRS taxes. So that the fact that Niaz uses these terms is unremarkable, but please understand his resume. It is remarkable. This is what I mean by content. We're coming and taking this company is taking a step toward you in content, and it is to credit the credit of Niaz. So now I'm going to go to the reply from Kamlesh, and this is most importantly, this is what your company has said back to us. So please listen in a relaxed setting. Hello, Niaz. Thanks for responding after nearly 5 months to the brief given to you hereunder. Let me bring to light certain facts as documented in our files. The incorporation and setup of this company was not done by us. We didn't even file registration with the IRS getting an EIN. After the setup was done, it operated for more than 7 months. Mr. Duty, me, and you, Niaz, approached us for filing of taxes. Mr. Duty even informed that you guys should have approached us earlier. 4. All the documents that were made available to us never indicated the entity was not supposed to be a corporation. 5. Before setting up Amramed in our systems, through Mr. Duty, we have elaborate calls on anomalies in the operation model of this company and how you should approach rectifying it. Even basics like an agreement was not put in place, on which in good faith on account relationship we share with Mr. Duty, we went on giving directions and advising without a single penny. After this, the financials came to us, also never indicated that this entity should be a corporation. 7, even when a formal engagement document was set up, it was clearly informed to us that your company wants to file as a separate entity. Mr. Duty was just acting as a facilitator for running the company in the U.S. In fact, at that point, we also discussed that if a separate entity, quote in parentheses, corporation return is not filed, Mr. Duty would have higher tax liability in light of SE tax, and that is undesired position for you as well as Mr. Duty. 8. After multiple revisions in the financial, we share a draft of the return, and even at that time, no one was informed that this should be a corporation entity return, since that was already discussed. Agreements that should be a corporate identity return only. In fact, looking on the draft, seeing a comparatively higher tax liability, you discussed again with me and brought certain more facts to light, which then require modification in the financials. Diaz, basis revision in financials, the return was e-filed to your satisfaction just a day before the due date. When after that notice from IRS came, you as well as Mr. Duty informed that neither you were sure whether Form 8832 was filed. Dose. To this, again, we discussed at length on the solution, and I requested a joint call with you and Mr. Duty in presence of our Form 8832 experts to begin the facts 2, 4, and implement next steps. This call never got organized, and you went silent for reasons best unknown to you. Mr. Duty called us a couple of times, wherein I even informed him of my discussion with you for a joint call. If after all this you say that we messed up, doesn't seem to relate with the facts, I'm sure even Mr. Duty would agree to factual notings made above. It doesn't bring out that we have already helped and advised in many areas, even other than the tax return. It's not just us, but if certain facts are never informed of and a clear direction of expected filings was given to any other tax person, that person as well would have proceeded in the manner in which we did, except for the fact that it's so much of other help and advice that wouldn't have been offered free of cost then. If now correcting the things is causing extra money and effort, then it's directly related to facts and information that were never being brought to light. You cannot make anyone responsible for such things, and doing so is very unprofessional. I would hence offer you to consider before recovery legal proceedings are initiated on the 15th of June to wire payment and close the loop. So that's it. I'm really trying to restrain myself and not do any personal editorial here, but I can't. Kamlish, Mr. Pinto, I know you didn't write this, but I have a feeling you helped, or I don't know what happens in your company, but it would be logical that you helped review something. Mr. Pinto and Kamlish. Kamlish's reply clearly says, hey, you as clients didn't cooperate. This is your fault. Pay us now. You're not saying pay us now. Pay us by the 15th or you're in trouble. Not once in that text, so this is the part I wanted not to include, but I can't help myself. Not once in the text from Kamlish was there not once in that text from Kamlish, there's an acknowledgement that the IRS said this is wrong and rejected it and gave a reply. So Kamlish writes, super clean. We didn't make any mistakes. You guys are the problem. If you would have given us and told us and been disclosure and cooperated and participated in the phone call, then none of these problems would have happened. Well, you recognize you are professionals who are skilled at filing with the IRS. It's not just Niaz that didn't like what you did. The IRS rejected it. There's no mention of that in Kamlish's reply. I didn't want to do that. If I were a better person, like the guy who's on all your bills, Mahatma Gandhi, I would have had better self-control. But I do not hold myself to that standard. My exercise in this video was you for just listen. And if you reach to this point, you have listened. And I thank you, sincerely thank you. While Amramed is jumping ship, unquestionably this relationship with Amramed cannot be mended, whether we pay some, part, all, or as Niaz prefers, nothing, is yet to be determined. But the relationship between Amramed and your company will not be mended. The relationship with me and your company, and that's Hannah and me with your company, will not be severed. You would have to really screw up to lose me. And this doesn't justify any jeopardy in our relationship. And if you're still listening, it's just great. It shows that you want to retain me as a client, me and Hannah as a client. This has been Tom Duty, middle-aged American, living in New Jersey, near the Lincoln Tunnel. If you were to visit my website, you would type Howdy Doody into Google. You'll find the correct spelling of the famous puppet. You then combine Tom Duty and a Google search for my site. Thank you for listening. Have a good day, good evening, or restful night's sleep. Ciao.